You were never in the final will. She made sure of that. I blinked once. The lawyer didn't stutter. His tone was matter-of-fact, like he was reading off a grocery list instead of gutting me with words. We were seated in the dark-paneled conference room of Wheeler and Grant law offices. The mahogany table was polished to a high shine, but all I could see was my own distorted reflection, angry, stunned, silent. My aunt, Monica Langford, sat across from me, sipping a green tea with a smug half-smile. Her silk scarf matched her lipstick, sharp red. My cousin Callie gave me a quick glance, then looked away. No one else said a word. It was just 2 weeks after my grandfather's funeral. The same grandfather I'd cared for during his final months. The same man who used to call me his quiet strength. Now I was being told I was erased. Cut out completely. And Monica? She had it all. I didn't say anything.
Not yet.
But I already knew. Monica played her move too early. And I had mine in motion long before the funeral. My name is Elias Grant, 31 years old, born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm an architect, quiet by nature, observant by necessity. I never liked drawing attention to myself, even as a child. Maybe that's why no one noticed how much I was always watching, listening. I grew up in my grandfather's house, James Langford, the man who practically raised me when my mother, his only daughter, passed away in a car accident when I was 9. He gave me stability, structure, and most importantly, roots. The Langford estate wasn't just a house. It was a heartbeat, a legacy. It smelled like cedarwood and fresh lemon polish, with lace curtains that moved with the summer breeze. Everything about it carried the warmth of generations. My aunt, Monica, was my mother's younger sister. She was never cruel outright. She was more strategic.
Slippery.
She appeared at birthdays with expensive gifts, smiled in photos, and then disappeared for months. When my grandfather got sick 2 years ago, she called once. Said something about being too busy with her practice in Charlotte. I was the one who took him to his appointments, changed the oxygen tanks, read him Hemingway on the porch when he couldn't sleep. I was there the night he whispered to me, "The house should be yours, Eli. You're the only one who never asked for anything." It wasn't about the house, though. It was about what it represented: home, memory, sacrifice. Every room had stories. The back porch where we shelled peas on Sundays. The attic where my mother kept her high school journals. The garden he and I rebuilt together when he turned 80. I put my sweat, time, and soul into that place. But Monica? She saw only value, dollar signs, assets. Her law career gave her the tools, but her greed gave her the motive. I remember the day everything changed. It was late September, leaves rustling across the porch steps. Grandpa had just returned from a hospital stay. The doctor said he had months, not years. Monica finally showed up for the first time in over a year. She strutted into the house like it still belonged to her. "Daddy," she said, kissing his cheek. "You look tired. Who's been taking care of you?" I stood silently from the hallway, my arms crossed. He looked at her, then at me. "Eli," he said softly. "Eli takes care of me." That was the first time I saw it. Her jaw tightened, her eyes calculating. I knew then. She was planning something. And I began preparing, too. For the next 2 months, while she visited weekly under the pretense of checking in, I noticed small things. She brought him smoothies, then left the kitchen a mess. She offered to help with the finances, only to hide documents in her bag. She pretended to read to him, but always ended up on her phone. One evening, as I tucked him in, Grandpa whispered, "She wants the will changed, Eli." My hand paused over the blanket. Did she say that? He nodded, tiredly, offered me some kind of trust, said it would protect the house. He laughed bitterly. "She thinks I don't know what she's after." He had already written a will, 2 years earlier, with the help of his old friend, Walter Delaney, a retired lawyer who used to live down the street. Grandpa had insisted on keeping it simple, the house and property to me, a small trust to Monica and her daughter Callie, and the family business assets divided evenly. But Monica wasn't content with that. She brought in her own lawyer, a sleek young associate from her Charlotte firm, a man named Stephen Cobb. Cobb started visiting weekly, always just consulting, but I knew what was happening. They were planning to reframe everything under updated wishes, probably citing Grandpa's declining health. That's when I made my move. I drove down to Walter Delaney's house the next morning. He was 78, sharp as ever, sitting on his front porch in a fishing hat, sipping lemonade. "You were right," I told him. "She's trying to rewrite everything." He didn't seem surprised. Monica always did think she was the smartest one in the room. "I want to make sure his original will stands. Legally." He looked at me long and hard, then nodded. "All right, son. But if you want to do this right, you'll need someone playing offense, not just defense." That's when he introduced me to Marie Bellamy, a young lawyer with integrity, brilliant mind, and a personal vendetta against legal manipulation. Walter had mentored her during her internship and vouched for her with pride. I paid for her services from my savings, every dime I'd earned rebuilding porches, drawing house blueprints for clients, and sacrificing vacations. But it was worth it. We didn't just protect the original will. We documented every single step Monica tried to take against it. Video evidence, time-stamped conversations, notarized statements from Grandpa. Marie ensured everything was locked tight. The cherry on top, Grandpa, before passing, insisted on filming a personal message. "If anyone tries to dispute my wishes, let this stand. Elias is my legacy. The house is his. I leave it with peace, not guilt." In the final weeks before his death, Grandpa grew weak, but peaceful. He knew the truth was protected. I didn't tell Monica. I let her play her game. She moved in closer, brought her own notary. She even faked concern, crying at the bedside, pretending to reconcile. But she underestimated two things. One, that Grandpa saw through her. Two, that I wasn't just the quiet kid in the background anymore. The day he passed, Monica moved fast. She told everyone she had the new will. Told Callie, told the neighbors, even emailed the estate lawyer's office. She wanted me out of that house. And I said nothing, because I knew what was coming. I spent the next few days going through boxes, preparing my backup plan. I didn't grieve publicly, not the way Monica did, with crocodile tears and Facebook posts. I mourned silently, as I always did. With action. At the funeral, she pulled me aside. "You're a good nephew, Elias," she said. "I know Daddy loved you. I just hope you don't take this will too personally. It's what he wanted in the end." I looked at her, at the woman who used to brush my hair when I was a child, then tossed me aside like I was invisible for the next 20 years. "I'm sure we'll figure it out," I replied. The day of the will reading was the real show. Monica entered like a queen, dressed in all black, pearls, hair pinned up. Her daughter Callie clung to her side, eyes darting nervously. The lawyer read out the document Monica brought, a newly drafted will signed just 2 weeks before Grandpa's passing. It gave her everything, the house, the land, even the Langford antiques. When the lawyer looked at me and said, "You were never in the final will," I didn't react. I just reached into my leather briefcase and slid a thin manila folder across the table. "You might want to take a look at this first." Monica didn't even touch the folder at first. She leaned back in her chair, one brow raised. "Elias, this isn't the time to cling to sentiment." Her lawyer, Stephen Cobb, frowned and reached for the folder himself. "What is this?" "Evidence," I said calmly. "From the actual legal representative of my grandfather's estate. Not the document your firm drafted after his morphine dosage increased." His expression twitched, just slightly.
I saw it.
He opened the folder and began scanning the top page, his face paling by the second. Monica leaned in quickly. Her eyes moved back and forth across the document, until she snapped the folder shut like it had burned her fingers. "This is absurd," she said. "That will is outdated." Marie Bellamy, seated to my left, finally spoke for the first time. "Actually," she said coolly, pulling out her phone and placing it on the table, "this will was drafted under full mental clarity and notarized on video. Your client's attempt to revise it while Mr. Langford was under heavy medication is legally challengeable at best, criminal at worst." She pressed play. And there it was. My grandfather's voice, clear and unwavering. This video is made of my own volition, with full knowledge of my decisions. I confirm the legitimacy of the original will prepared with Mr. Delaney. I've not authorized any changes to it. And I wish Elias Grant to have full ownership of my home, land, and all material assets not specified in the trust. Anyone claiming otherwise is acting without my blessing. Monica froze. Her mouth hung open just a fraction. Cobb turned to her with a face that said, "You didn't tell me this was out there." She started, but Marie cut her off. "We also have signed testimony from Mr. Delaney and the attending nurse confirming his lucidity at the time. Any probate court would uphold this will, and possibly investigate yours for coercion." The room fell quiet. Even Callie looked stunned. For a moment, I said nothing. I just watched Monica. Watched her scramble in her own mind, trying to figure out whether to double down or retreat. Then she spoke. "You're doing this to spite me," she hissed. "You think you're better than me just because he picked you. He pitted you, Elias." "No," I said quietly. "He trusted me." I reached into my case again and placed one more item on the table, a copy of a property transfer deed. One that granted me full title ownership of the Langford house, executed and signed just 1 month before his death. "I bought the lawyer," I added. "Not with money, with integrity, with truth. Something you never understood." Marie folded her arms and nodded. "If you'd like to proceed with probate litigation, Ms. Langford, we're prepared. But I suggest you drop the charade before this goes to court." Monica sat back in her chair, furious, silent. Her lawyer quietly began gathering his files. As I stood, I caught Callie's eyes. She didn't speak, just looked ashamed. I could see she believed her mother. Maybe even admired her for a time. But that illusion was gone now. Outside the office, I stepped into the Charleston humidity, the air thick and salty. Marie followed behind me. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded slowly.
"Yeah."
And for the first time since the funeral, I actually meant it. But the twist didn't just end at the lawyer's table. 2 days later, I received an envelope by courier. Inside was a formal letter from Monica's attorney, Stephen Cobb, notifying me that they were withdrawing from all further legal action. A second document was attached, a full retraction of her submitted will, signed by Monica herself, acknowledging that her version was in error. I smiled. For once, she wasn't just defeated. She had to admit it. Word spread quickly through the family. The cousins who had distanced themselves started texting again, some curious, others offering hollow apologies. A few even asked if they could come visit the house. I didn't reply. There were still things to process. Still ghosts in the hallway of the Langford home. Still moments when I caught myself reaching for Grandpa's walking cane by the fireplace, or pausing at the door expecting to hear him say, "Out early, son?" But for the first time, the house felt mine. Not just legally, but spiritually. I had earned it. Not through bloodlines. Through loyalty. 3 days after Monica's legal surrender, she showed up at the Langford house. No warning. No text. Just her silver Lexus creeping into the gravel driveway like a ghost trying to sneak in the front door. I saw her from the upstairs window while unpacking some boxes. My first instinct was to ignore her. Let her sit in that car and sweat in her own silence.
But then I thought of Grandpa.
He'd want me to face her, not to fight, to finish it. I walked down and opened the front door before she rang the bell. She stood there in a tailored gray dress, clutching her designer purse like a weapon. Her eyes scanned the porch, the new planters I added, the refinished swing, the old rocking chair now mended. "You've already started changing things," she said. "It's mine to change," I answered, holding the door frame. She hesitated, then stepped forward. "Can I come in?"
"No."
The word landed heavy in the air between us. Final. Boundaried. "I just want to talk, Elias. You had your chance. You chose manipulation. You chose lies. I chose proof." She looked down, inhaled deeply. "You think I'm the villain in all this?" "I don't think," I replied. "I know." She stepped back. For the first time in my life, Monica didn't look superior. She looked stripped, like someone whose illusions had all been peeled away, one courtroom document at a time. I raised Callie on my own, she said. I've had to fight for everything. I deserved part of that house. You gotta trust, I reminded her. And you would have had more if you hadn't tried to erase me. Grandpa would have given you more if you hadn't treated him like a transaction. You don't know what it was like, watching him give everything to you, watching you take my place. I laughed bitterly. Take your place? You gave that place away the moment you stopped showing up. The moment you stopped being a daughter. Her mouth opened to respond, but she had nothing. Just air. Just regret. Then her tone changed. You think you've won something, Elias. But this house comes with weight. Family will turn on you. People will come for what's yours. They always do. I nodded slowly. Let them come. I'm not afraid of what's mine. I earned it. She turned and left, heels clicking like the ticking of a clock winding down on everything she used to control. But Monica wasn't the only storm I had to weather. That weekend, I hosted a small gathering, a rebirth dinner, I called it, for the people who actually showed up when it mattered. I invited Marie, of course. She came in a blue blouse, hair tied back, and brought a bottle of champagne. For beginnings, she said with a smile. I also invited Uncle Charles, Grandpa's brother, who'd stayed silent during the legal drama. He showed up late, carrying an old box of photographs and a guilty conscience. I should have stood up sooner, he said, handing me the box. But your aunt, she had a way of making people believe she held all the cards. She did, I replied, until someone flipped the table. As the guests laughed and ate lemon chicken, mac and cheese, the same cornbread recipe Grandpa used to make, I noticed Callie at the edge of the property. Alone. She hadn't been invited, but I wasn't surprised to see her. I excused myself from the table and walked over. You're not here to make a scene, are you? I asked softly. She shook her head.
No.
I wanted to see the place. One last time. You're not banned, Callie. You just need to understand that things have changed. I do, she said. I really do. I believed her, Elias. I believed she was doing it all for the family.
For me.
But I saw the video and I saw her face. And I realized I didn't know her at all. We stood in silence. I loved him too, she whispered. I know. She didn't ask to come in. She didn't push. She just turned and walked away with a quiet kind of grief. Not for the house, but for everything that had been broken in the process. Later that night, Marie and I sat on the porch swing. You handled that with grace, she said. Most people would have dragged it out in court for months. I didn't want revenge, I replied. I wanted resolution. She studied me for a long moment. That's rare. I looked at the porch lights glowing against the magnolia trees. Maybe, I said. But I grew up in this house. I knew how to be patient. Then the final shift came. A letter arrived in the mail 2 weeks later, from Monica. It wasn't angry. It wasn't bitter. Just one paragraph, handwritten in slanted cursive. Elias. You may not believe this, but I loved my father. I just didn't know how to show up for him the way you did. I thought if I could control the ending, I could rewrite the past. That was wrong. You did what I couldn't. You stayed. I won't contact you again. Just know I see now why he chose you. Monica. I folded the letter and placed it inside Grandpa's old Bible on the mantel. Not as forgiveness. As closure. The day of the second hearing arrived like the quiet before a storm, eerily still, pregnant with anticipation. I stood outside the courthouse, feeling the weight of years of betrayal in my chest, yet strangely calm. Everything was in place. Monica had no idea what was coming. Inside the chamber, Monica swept in like she owned the place, designer bag, oversized sunglasses, and that annoying air of superiority she carried like a perfume. Callie trailed behind, clearly nervous, eyes darting around. Her father, Uncle Rick, looked confused but indifferent as always. The lawyer representing the estate today was no longer Monica's little puppet. I had replaced him weeks ago with someone more fair. Good morning, said Daniel Cruz, my new attorney. He stood confidently beside me, crisp suit, silver tie clip, and a voice that could make silence tremble. Monica did a double take the moment she saw him. "Where's Harvey?" she asked, looking at the empty chair where her original lawyer usually sat. Daniel gave her a pleasant but cold smile. "He's on a sudden leave of absence. I'll be representing the estate today." Mr. Langford left a few updated instructions we discovered in his private file, along with a video recording. Monica's face paled. A video?" she croaked.
Yes.
"Apparently, your uncle anticipated some complications." Daniel opened his briefcase and removed a slim silver USB. He recorded this a few days before he passed. "Shall we begin?" Everyone leaned in. The courtroom went still. The monitor flickered, and there was Grandpa, fragile but composed, sitting in his study. "If you're watching this," he began, voice rough but firm, "then I'm gone. And I need to make one final truth known. My last will and testament, the one filed weeks ago, was tampered with. Monica, I know what you did. You used my weakness against me, coercion, manipulation. But I had already made my final decisions and ensured a copy was stored securely with my original attorney, Mr. Wallace. Daniel has my instructions." He paused. "Ellis, my grandson, you were my son in every way that mattered. You took care of me when no one else would. I may not have said it enough, but I was proud of you. The house, the land, the savings, I want it all to go to you." The screen faded to black. A thick silence followed, one that seemed to last forever. Monica exploded. "This is a joke. That video could be faked. This is not legally binding." Daniel remained calm. "Actually, it is. The original copy of the will, untouched and notarized, has been submitted alongside this recording. It supersedes the version filed afterward, the one you allegedly helped draft." She lunged toward me, but the bailiff stuck between us. "You think you've won, Ellis?" she hissed. "This isn't over. You'll regret this." I looked at her, dead in the eye. "No, Aunt Monica. I already regretted ever trusting you. What I did today was justice, not revenge." She was escorted out, spitting curses under her breath. Callie stayed behind. Quietly, she approached me. "I didn't know she'd gone that far," she whispered. I didn't want to lose everything." "I get it," I said. "But you were old enough to know right from wrong. You still chose her side." "I'm sorry. I didn't say anything more. Some bridges need to burn." Outside, the wind had picked up. The courthouse doors closed behind me as I stepped into the light, not just legally vindicated, but free. Weeks passed after the courtroom dust settled, and peace, that rare and precious thing, finally returned to my life. The estate was transferred to me without further issue. The house, my grandfather's pride, stood tall and untouched, as though it had waited patiently for the rightful owner. The garden he once tended now felt alive again, blooming under my care the same way it had under his. Walking through the halls, I felt his presence stronger now than even when he was alive. I ran my fingers along the bookshelves, sat in his favorite chair, and opened the same ledgers we once studied together. There was a quiet dignity to the space now, no longer polluted by greed or deceit. The community, once confused by Monica's version of events, began to reach out. Old neighbors dropped by, telling me stories about my grandfather I'd never heard before. One even brought over a photo album from a fishing trip they'd taken in the 90s, pictures of him holding up a catch with the same proud grin I now saw in the mirror. As for Monica, her downfall came swiftly. Fraud investigations into her attempt to alter the will brought professional consequences. Her reputation crumbled. The high society circles she adored turned their backs on her. Eventually, she left town, uninvited, unwelcome. Callie reached out once more. This time, it wasn't an apology, it was a confession. She told me Monica had made her believe I was after the money, not the memory. That she'd twisted everything until even my love for my grandfather looked selfish. "I was wrong," she said. "You were always his favorite. We all knew it. I just didn't want it to be true." I thanked her, but didn't offer forgiveness. Some people need to sit with the silence of their mistakes. Daniel Cruz and I stayed in touch. Turned out, He had more integrity than half the family combined. He even offered to help me establish a small scholarship fund in Grandpa's name for underprivileged kids from our county, a way to honor the man who taught me that doing the right thing doesn't always make you popular, but it always makes you proud. On the porch one evening, I watched the sun dip behind the hills. I could almost hear Grandpa's voice again. Life will test you, kid. Just make sure you pass with your name intact. I had. I'd lost a family I never really had, but reclaimed one man's legacy. And in doing so, I'd found something far more valuable than money.
Peace.
And the power to write my own chapter. A year later, I stood at the dedication ceremony for the Edward Wallace Memorial Scholarship, named after my grandfather. The plaque shone under the sunlight, engraved with his favorite quote. Honor isn't inherited, it's earned. The fund had already helped 5 students begin their college journeys, and applications continued to pour in from kids who reminded me of the person I once was, hungry, humble, and hopeful. The estate had evolved.
I didn't sell it.
I transformed it. What was once just my grandfather's home was now a learning retreat. We held free weekend workshops in the garage he used as a woodshop. Local teens came to learn everything from carpentry to financial literacy, skills Grandpa had quietly instilled in me when no one was watching. One evening, I received a letter in a weathered envelope. No return address. Inside was a simple note. You were always meant to win. I just didn't want you to. No signature. But I didn't need one. Monica's handwriting was unforgettable. She wasn't asking for forgiveness, just acknowledgement. And that's all I gave it, a quiet nod before tossing it in the fireplace. Some wounds don't close with words.
Some don't need to.
Because this story wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming what mattered. About proving that when your intentions are pure and your spine unbreakable, not even a forged will can stop what's meant to be yours. I didn't just win back the estate. I earned back my name,